Excuse me again. Well, good morning, everybody. It is 6 something here in the shop. Nothing really to report, so we're gonna take this a different route once I take my vitamin. Still taking that first form vitamin, megawatt, and level 1 protein shake. But what we're gonna do here is go into the booth. Just don't mind all the parts and pieces that are sitting inside there. We're going to start work on a Javelin that I am working specifically with another gentleman on. So let's get in there and let's figure it out. Alright guys, so welcome into the booth here. I got you set up so that way we don't run into any of the other projects we got going on in here. Because like I said, Javelin is not my money maker. I am a painter otherwise, so I got other parts and pieces floating around this booth that we're working on today and for a while. So, what I got. This Javelin here was brought to me by a gentleman named Christian. He has a YouTube page called the Javelin Breakdown. And we agreed to set up a Javelin for him. I forget who he said this was given to him by, but obviously you can tell it's been used and abused a few times. It's still an older Javelin, but not old enough that it needs a conversion, so it's still good and legal. You can actually tell this one was originally fixed up by Ron Johnson out in Oregon. This is a Nordic Super 80 Elite. I'm not sure if there's much difference between the Super Elite 80 and the Super Elite 90, other than the head. The Super Elite 80 has a very blunt head. This is obviously a very pointed head, so I think that's the main difference. I don't think there was much difference in the shaft. I could be wrong, don't hold that to me. So what we're going to do to get started is break out the trusty pocket knife and get the grip off. Oops, I'm getting caught up here. It looks like Mr. Ron did this back in 09. January of 09. By the looks of it, he just kept the standard paint job for the Nordic Supers, which was just plain white. I actually have a Super 80, so maybe I'll be able to bring that in, or I have the Super 90, excuse me, so maybe I'll be able to bring that in and just help explain the difference between the heads. Just so that way some people, just get a better idea. Now, like you can see here, there's a little bit of rust happening up here, and then a lot more of it back here at the tail. Now, by looks of things, nothing has rusted through. There's no real major rust. It's just some surface rust, so it's nothing that we have to worry about. But Nordic specifically, they make 90% of their Javelins out of steel, which is why this one has started to rust as the paint has chipped off. So when I go to sand this Javelin down, I don't mind using 80 grit. Throwing things at you. I don't mind using 80 grit to sand this down. If this was an aluminum Javelin, I would not be using 80 grit. I would probably drop down to either the 180 or to a 220. Because the heavier grit will definitely tear up the aluminum, and we don't want that to happen. So, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my boss is here. Anyway, so we're going to get into this, try to do a little speed video, just have you guys watch me sand it down, and hopefully get some primer on it today. So, let's get to it. condition of the Javelin. I missed a couple spots here and there, which we'll worry about later. Now you noticed in the beginning how the tail was a bit rusty. You can still see it there, which is what's left. Now this is something I only do on Nordics, just because of that. Everybody's seen a rusty Nordic and it's never good. I have Marhide, which is a rust converter. Obviously the camera's facing, using the self-facing camera, so I'm not sure if that's going to come in backwards or forwards. But it is a one-step rust converter. It comes out looking kind of whitish, yellowish. So I'm going to go over the whole Javelin with this. Stick it behind you and you just get a look at the beard for a minute. So that way you can see what I'm doing. It's just a typical brush, nothing fancy. You can also spray this stuff. For what I'm doing is more of a temporary situation, because we're going to come back later after it's done, sand it back down, and see what's left. So you don't have to put it on very thick. This ends up turning black when you're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the whole entire Javelin. And I'm just using a crappy paintbrush, nothing special. Like I said, this is a Nordic issue only. You do have some of the older Sandviks that were made out of steel, but whether or not they're convertible is a question. I know Sandvik did have, when they were converting between Nordic and Sandvik, after they got bought out, there was, some Sandvik models that did come out. I forget if those were steel or aluminum. I believe they were still steel, so they would have this issue. So, this is not the only brand of rust converter. This is a sprayable rust converter. I've done it before on some bigger projects, nothing this small, so that's why we're just brushing it on. Alright, so it's actually already starting to do its job. Kind of touch it. You can tell everything's turning black down there. That means it's doing its job, so we're just going to put it off in the corner. Give it time to do its job. My camera's not facing the right direction, so we're going to lower ourselves down to get into frame. So that's going to do its thing. Post this video as part number 1. I don't know how many parts there's going to be. But in the long run, that is going to be the Hornet, and it is going to be yellow and black. I'm not sure how, I'm not sure what. I know how. I know what. I don't know what design we're going to do. Still trying to figure that one out. Most likely going to be some sort of spirally. We're working on that. We're trying to figure it out. But stay safe, throw far, take care of yourselves, take care of each other.